Tonight, we return quietly to Paris. Not the bright and busy city we know today, but the Paris of the late 18th century. A city of narrow streets, stone houses, and dim candlelight. It is the summer of 1789. The air in the city is heavy with heat, and with something else, something difficult to name. A strange feeling that something in the world is about to change. But tonight, most of the city is quiet. The hour is late. Shops are closed. Candles burn low behind small windows. And the narrow streets rest in uneasy silence. In a small bakery near one of the crowded markets, a man is still awake. His name will never appear in the great books of history. He is not a king, not a soldier, not a famous revolutionary. He is simply a baker. For many years he has risen before sunrise, kneading dough and baking bread for the people of his neighborhood. Bread is the center of daily life in Paris. Every morning, long lines of people gather outside bakeries. Workers, servants, mothers with children, all waiting for the same simple food. But lately something has changed. The price of bread has been rising. Flour is harder to find, and the people of Paris are growing restless. The baker has heard the whispers. People talk in markets, in taverns, in the long lines outside his shop. They speak about hunger, about unfair taxes, about the king, and about a strange new word that seems to be everywhere: revolution. The baker does not fully understand politics. He spends most of his days surrounded by flour and fire, not by speeches and pamphlets, but he can feel the tension in the air. Even simple things have begun to change. Customers speak more loudly. Arguments break out in the streets, and rumors move through the city faster than carts or horses. Tonight, the baker stands near the open window of his workshop. The smell of warm bread still fills the room. Outside, the sky above Paris is dark and cloudless. Somewhere far away, a dog barks. Then silence returns again. From his window, he can see a faint outline of rooftops stretching across the city. And somewhere beyond those roofs stands a great stone fortress, the Bastille. Most people in Paris have never seen inside it. They only know the stories: high walls, dark towers, prisoners hidden behind thick stone. For the baker, the Bastille is simply part of the distant skyline, a shadow on the horizon of the city. But tonight, the streets feel different. Groups of people pass through the alleys even at this late hour. Some speak quietly. Others argue. A few carry lanterns that flicker against the walls. The baker watches them from the doorway of his shop. He does not join them. Tomorrow he must wake before dawn, as he always does. Bread still needs to be baked. Even when history begins to move, but deep inside he senses that the city is changing. Paris feels like a pot slowly coming to a boil. The streets are full of whispers, full of anger, full of fear, and also of hope. The baker does not know what tomorrow will bring. He only knows that something is building in the city, something larger than the small life he lives each day. Tonight, Paris waits, and in the quiet darkness before morning, the baker finishes his work, unaware that tomorrow the streets of the city will fill with crowds, and that the fortress he sees on the horizon will soon become the center of a moment that history will never forget. But for now, the night remains calm, and the baker prepares for another ordinary morning. Morning in Paris arrives slowly. Before the sun rises fully above the rooftops, the city is already beginning to stir. The baker has been awake for hours. Inside his shop, the stone oven glows with steady heat. Fresh loaves of bread rest on long wooden boards, filling the room with a warm and comforting smell. The scent drifts out into the narrow street, and soon the first customers begin to arrive. A woman with a basket, an older man wrapped in a worn coat, a young boy sent by his family to buy bread for the morning meal. They wait quietly at first, but the line grows longer than usual. People speak in low voices. Everyone seems to be talking about the same thing: the city, the soldiers, the rumors. The baker listens while he works. He tears pieces of dough, shapes them, slides the loaves carefully into the oven. He has heard many rumors before, but this morning feels different. There is a strange energy moving through the streets. More people are gathering in small groups. Some carry tools, others carry sticks or iron bars. Many speak about weapons and about a place everyone in Paris knows: the Bastille, the fortress prison that rises above the eastern part of the city. For centuries it has stood there, its towers casting long shadows across the streets. To many people, it represents the power of the king, a place where prisoners can disappear behind stone walls. The baker has never been inside it. Few ordinary people have, but the stories about the Bastille are everywhere. Some say it holds secret prisoners. Others say it hides weapons and gunpowder. This morning, the crowd seemed to believe that something important lies behind those walls. Outside the bakery, the street grows louder. More footsteps, more voices. The quiet morning of Paris is slowly turning into something else. The baker hands a loaf of bread to an old woman. Her hands tremble slightly as she takes it. "Have you heard?" she asks quietly. "The people are going to the Bastille." The baker nods but says nothing. He has heard the same words already several times. Another man in line speaks more loudly. "They say the soldiers are afraid," he says. "They say the people are gathering weapons." A few others in the crowd begin to argue. Some sound excited, others sound worried. The baker continues his work in silence. He is not a man of politics. He understands flour, he understands fire, and he understands hunger. But the city around him feels like it is slowly changing shape. Outside, the summer sun begins to rise. Light spreads across the rooftops of Paris. The streets are now fully awake. The line outside the bakery grows longer, but fewer people are thinking about bread. More and more eyes are turning toward the eastern part of the city, toward the great stone fortress that stands there. Somewhere far away, a bell begins to ring, then another and another. The sound spreads through the city like ripples in water. The baker pauses for a moment beside the oven. For years, his mornings have followed the same quiet rhythm. Mix the dough, bake the bread, serve the people. But today that rhythm feels uncertain. Paris is moving, slowly at first, but with growing energy, like a river beginning to swell after a storm. The baker looks down the street. More people are walking in the same direction now, toward the Bastille. Some speak excitedly, others move with determined silence. History often feels distant to ordinary people, something that happens in palaces or battlefields far away. But sometimes history walks directly through the streets, outside your door. And on this summer morning in Paris, the baker senses that he may be witnessing one of those moments. For now, he returns to his work, but the city is no longer calm, and the day is only beginning. As the morning continues, the streets of Paris grow more crowded. The baker notices that many of his usual customers leave quickly after buying their bread. They do not return home the way they normally would. Instead, They move toward the eastern part of the city, toward the Bastille. The baker wipes flour from his hands and steps outside his shop for a moment. The air now carries the sounds of a waking city. Voices echo between the stone walls of the narrow streets. Footsteps move quickly along the road. Some people walk in small groups. Others move alone, but all seem to share the same direction. The baker watches them quietly. He sees workers still wearing their heavy aprons, ikadi, young men carrying tools from workshops. Even older men who rarely leave their homes early in the morning. Something unusual is happening. Across the street, two neighbors speak urgently. They say the fortress has gunpowder. One whispers, "The people need weapons." Another man shakes his head. "The soldiers will never allow it." But even as he speaks, more people pass by. Some carry sticks, others carry old muskets. Many simply carry determination. Paris feels different today. The baker senses it in the movement of the crowd, in the way people speak, in the tension that seems to rest in the air. He has lived in this neighborhood his entire life. He knows the rhythm of the streets. Normally, mornings are predictable. Merchants opening shops, children running errands, carts rolling slowly over the stones. But today the city moves with a restless energy, as if something long contained is beginning to break free. The baker returns inside the bakery. The oven is still warm. The last loaves are nearly finished baking. He removes them carefully and places them on the wooden table. For a moment he pauses. The smell of fresh bread fills the room. It is a familiar scent, comforting, simple, a reminder that even in uncertain times, daily life continues. Outside, the noise of the crowd grows louder. More voices, more footsteps. From time to time, the baker hears someone shouting news from another part of the city. More people are coming. They are marching to the Bastille. The baker moves again to the doorway. The street that was quiet only hours ago is now alive with movement. A group of young men pass by, speaking excitedly. One of them waves a small flag. Another carries a long wooden pole. They are not soldiers. They are ordinary citizens. But they walk with the energy of people who believe something important is about to happen. Farther down the street, a cart struggles to move through the growing crowd. The driver calls out for people to clear the road, but few are paying attention. Everyone seems focused on the same destination, the great fortress rising beyond the rooftops of Paris, the Bastille. The baker has seen it only from a distance. Its tall stone towers stand against the sky like silent guardians. For many people, it represents power, authority, and fear. But today, the fortress is becoming something else, a symbol. The baker cannot explain exactly why. He only knows that the city is changing, slowly, like the rising heat inside an oven. At first, barely noticeable, then stronger with every passing moment. The baker looks once more down the street. More people are joining the flow of the crowd. Paris is moving, and the day that began quietly in the darkness is now becoming something far greater, something history will remember for centuries. But for the baker, the morning continues as it always has. Bread must still be made, and ovens must still be tended. Yet outside his small shop, the streets of Paris are filling with the sound of a city walking toward a moment that will soon change the world. As the morning continues, the flow of people through the streets becomes steady. The baker watches from the doorway of his shop. What began as small groups has now turned into a slow, moving crowd. Men and women, walk together through the narrow streets of Paris. Some speak loudly. Others walk in silence, listening carefully to the voices around them. News moves through the crowd like wind through tall grass. One person repeats what another has heard. Stories change as they travel from street to street, but one message seems clear. More and more people are heading toward the Bastille. The baker steps outside again. He closes the door of the bakery behind him. For a moment, he simply watches the movement of the crowd. Paris is no longer the quiet city of the early morning. Now the streets are filled with energy. Footsteps echo against the stone walls. Voices rise and fall like waves. Some people carry tools. Others carry old weapons taken from workshops or storage rooms. A few men drag small carts loaded with supplies. The baker sees familiar faces among the crowd. Neighbors, customers from his shop, people who only hours earlier had stood quietly waiting for bread. Now they move with purpose, not quickly, but with determination. He hears someone say that the people are searching for gunpowder. Others speak about weapons stored inside the Bastille. The fortress prison has stood in Paris for centuries. Its towers rise high above the eastern part of the city. Thick stone walls surround it. From a distance it looks silent and immovable. But today the fortress has become the center of the city's attention. The baker decides to walk a little farther down the street, not to join the crowd, only to see what is happening. As he moves slowly along the road, the city reveals a different side of itself. Shops stand half open. Some merchants have stepped outside to watch. Others stand in their doorways speaking quietly with neighbors. From an upper window, a woman leans out to look down at the passing crowd. Children run along the edges of the street, curious but uncertain. Above it all, the summer sun continues to rise. Its light spreads slowly across the rooftops of Paris. Shadows shorten as the morning grows brighter, yet despite the growing daylight, the mood of the city feels tense. Like a storm that has not yet arrived, but can already be felt in the air. The baker reaches a small square where several streets meet. Here the crowd grows thicker. People gather in clusters, speaking in excited voices. A man stands on a wooden crate trying to explain something he has heard. Others argue about what should happen next. Some call for weapons. Others speak about justice. The baker listens quietly. He has never been a man who enjoys loud arguments. His world is usually small and predictable. Flour, fire, dough, bread. But today Paris feels different, larger, uncertain. Alive with a strange mixture of fear and hope. From somewhere farther down the street comes the distant sound of shouting. Heads turn in the same direction. The crowd begins to move again. Slowly, at first. Then, with growing momentum, people follow the sound. Toward the east. Toward the Bastille. The baker does not follow them far. Instead, he pauses at the edge of the square. From where he stands, he can see the movement of the crowd as it continues through the streets. A quiet river of people flowing through the city. The baker takes a deep breath. The smell of the city surrounds him. Smoke from cooking fires. Fresh bread from nearby bakeries. Warm stone heated by the morning sun. Paris continues to move, and somewhere ahead, beyond the rooftops and narrow streets, the great fortress waits. The baker cannot yet see its towers from where he stands, but he knows the direction everyone in Paris knows. The Bastille, a place that has stood silent for generations. But today, the city itself seems to be walking toward its gates. And the morning that began so quietly is slowly becoming one of the most important days Paris will ever know. The baker eventually turns back toward his neighborhood. The crowd continues moving through the streets behind him. He walks slowly. There is no reason to hurry. The city feels different today, but his bakery still waits for him. As he returns through the familiar streets, he notices how many doors now stand open. People are watching, some lean against walls. Others stand quietly beside their shops. Everyone seems to be listening for news. Every few minutes, someone runs past carrying a message from another part of the city. The crowd is growing. They are marching to the Bastille. The soldiers are watching from the walls. Rumors move faster than the people themselves. By the time the baker reaches the small square near his bakery, the city feels even more awake. The sun is now high enough to fill the streets with warm light. Morning shadows have begun to fade. Paris is alive with sound. Carts rattle over the stones. Voices call from windows. And the distant murmur of the crowd continues somewhere far across the city. The baker opens the door of his bakery again. Inside the room still smells of warm bread. The last loaves rest quietly on the wooden table. For a moment, everything inside feels calm. The stone oven glows softly. Flour dust floats in the warm air. It is the same peaceful world he has known for years. But outside, the city is moving towards something unknown. After a short while, another customer arrives. A young man, breathing heavily as if he has been walking quickly. "Have they reached the Bastille yet?" the baker asks quietly. The young man shakes his head. "Not yet," he says, "but thousands are gathering there." He takes a loaf of bread and places a few coins on the table. Then he pauses before leaving. "They say the fortress looks very different when you stand close to it," he adds. "The walls are higher than anyone expects." The baker nods slowly. He has seen the Bastille only from a distance, a shadow rising beyond the rooftops of Paris. But today, thousands of people are walking toward those stone walls, and the baker cannot stop thinking about it. Later in the morning, the street grows quieter again. Most of the crowd has already passed through the neighborhood. Now only a few late walkers continue along the road. Some carry tools. Others carry nothing but curiosity. From time to time, someone returns from the eastern side of the city, bringing new pieces of news. They are demanding weapons. The soldiers are refusing. No one knows what will happen next. The baker listens carefully. But the truth is difficult to find among so many voices. For the moment, the Bastille remains distant, a place hidden behind many streets and buildings. But its presence fills the thoughts of the entire city. The baker steps outside again. He looks toward the east. From here, the fortress cannot be seen. Only the endless rooftops of Paris stretching toward the horizon. Yet, beyond those roofs, the crowd continues to gather. History sometimes begins quietly, not with the sound of battle, but with footsteps. Thousands of ordinary footsteps moving slowly through the streets of a city. And on this warm summer morning in 1789, those footsteps are carrying the people of Paris toward the gates of the Bastille. The baker returns inside his shop once more. He wipes the wooden table clean. He prepares more dough. Because no matter what happens in the streets, the people of Paris will still need bread tomorrow morning. Yet even as he works, he knows that this day is no longer ordinary. Something has begun. And somewhere beyond the rooftops of the city, Thousands of voices are now gathering beneath the tall stone towers of the Bastille. By the middle of the day, the city of Paris feels completely different from the quiet place it was only hours earlier. The baker hears it in the distance, a constant murmur that travels through the streets like a low wind. Thousands of voices somewhere across the city. The Bastille. Everyone now seems to be talking about the same place. Even those who stayed behind in their neighborhoods cannot escape the feeling that something important is unfolding. The baker steps outside his shop once again. The street is quieter now. Most of the people who passed earlier have already continued toward the eastern side of the city. Only small groups remain. Some speak together in hushed voices. Others stand waiting for news. A man hurries down the street, carrying word from the crowd. "They are there," he calls. Thousands of people are standing before the Bastille. Several neighbors gather around him. "What are they doing?" someone asks. The man wipes sweat from his forehead. "They are talking with the soldiers," he says. "They want weapons and gunpowder." The baker listens silently. Far away, beyond the maze of streets and houses, the great fortress now stands surrounded by the people of Paris. From a distance, the Bastille always looked silent and unchanging. 8 great towers of gray stone, walls thick enough to resist cannons, heavy gates protecting the courtyard within. For generations, the fortress has been a symbol of royal authority, a place feared by many. Yet today, the fortress is no longer alone. The crowd outside its walls grows larger with every passing hour. Workers, shopkeepers, students, laborers, citizens of every kind. People who normally live quiet and separate lives, now standing together in one place. Some climb onto nearby rooftops to watch what is happening. Others push closer to the fortress gates. Many simply wait, listening carefully to the voices of those speaking with the soldiers. Back in his neighborhood, the baker can only imagine the scene, but the stories reaching him grow more vivid with every messenger who returns. "They are negotiating," someone says. "The governor of the Bastille is speaking with the people." Others claim that weapons have already been promised. Some believe the fortress will surrender peacefully. No one knows the truth. The baker looks down the street once more. The summer air feels heavy now. The sun stands high above the rooftops of Paris. Shadows have grown short. It is the hottest part of the day. Even the pigeons resting along the roofs seem still. Yet beneath this calm sky, the city holds its breath. History sometimes moves slowly at first, like a door that opens only a little, then a little more, until suddenly the world beyond it changes forever. The baker returns inside his bakery. He pours water into a wooden bowl, adds flour, begins kneading dough once more. The familiar work steadies his thoughts. His hands move in the rhythm he has known for years. Press, fold, turn. Outside, the city waits. Somewhere beyond the streets of Paris, thousands of people now stand before the tall stone walls of the Bastille. And though the baker cannot see the fortress from where he stands, he senses that the quiet balance of the city is beginning to shift. Slowly, almost silently, like the moment just before a storm finally breaks. During the afternoon, the city grows restless. Even those who stayed far from the Bastille can feel that something important is happening. News travels slowly through the streets, carried by people returning from the eastern side of Paris. Some arrive walking quickly. Others stop along the way to share what they have seen. The baker hears fragments of their stories as they pass by his shop. The crowd is enormous, someone says. Thousands of people are standing before the fortress. Another man claims that the gates may soon open. Others say the soldiers are refusing to surrender. The truth shifts from one voice to another. No one seems completely certain. The baker steps outside again. The street is quieter now, but the tension in the air has not disappeared. From time to time, a messenger hurries through the neighborhood. Each carries a new rumor. They are bringing cannons. The soldiers are preparing to fire. They are still negotiating. Paris feels like a city, waiting for something to happen. The afternoon sun hangs low in the sky. Its warm light spreads across the rooftops. Dust rises from the streets, where hundreds of footsteps have passed. The baker leans against the wooden frame of his doorway. He tries to imagine what the scene must look like near the Bastille. The fortress towers rising above the crowd. The thick walls of gray stone. The narrow bridge leading to the gate. And before those walls, the people of Paris, some shouting, some pleading, some waiting in uneasy silence. For many of them, this is not simply about weapons. It is about something larger, about power, about justice, about the feeling that the old order of the world is beginning to crack. Yet, from the baker's quiet street, the Bastille remains invisible, hidden behind layers of buildings and winding roads. Only the voices of the city reach him. Late in the afternoon, a young boy runs down the street. He is breathless with excitement. "They fired," he shouts to anyone who will listen. They fired on the crowd. Several neighbors step outside immediately. "What happened?" someone asks. But the boy can only shake his head. "I don't know," he says. There was shouting and smoke. Then he runs off again toward another street. The baker watches him disappear around the corner. For a long moment, the street falls silent. People look at one another without speaking. Some return slowly to their homes. Others remain outside, waiting for more news. The baker goes back inside the bakery. He sits down beside the wooden table. For the first time that day, he stops working. Outside, the afternoon light begins to soften. Shadows stretch across the stones of the street. The long summer day is slowly moving toward evening. Yet the city is far from calm. Somewhere across Paris, the crowd still surrounds the Bastille. And the fortress that once seemed distant and untouchable is now standing face to face with the people of the city. The baker listens to the quiet sounds of his neighborhood. A cart passing slowly down the road. A door closing somewhere nearby. But beneath these ordinary sounds, there remains the distant feeling that history itself is unfolding beyond the horizon of the rooftops. And though the baker cannot see the Bastille from where he sits, he knows that before this day ends, Paris may never look the same again. As the afternoon slowly fades into evening, the atmosphere in Paris begins to change once again. The long summer day is cooling. Soft shadows stretch across the narrow streets. The sun lowers toward the rooftops of the city, casting a warm golden light over the stone walls and wooden doors. In the baker's neighborhood, people continue to wait for news. Some sit outside their homes. Others gather in small groups, speaking quietly about the rumors that have spread through the city. All day, the baker steps outside his shop once more. The air feels calmer now, not silent, but calmer than before. The great rush of people moving toward the Bastille has passed. Now the streets, hold only those who stayed behind. A few men walk slowly down the road, returning from the eastern side of Paris. Their clothes are dusty, their faces tired from the long day. Neighbors gather around them immediately. "What happened?" someone asks. The men speak quietly at first, but the message spreads quickly from one person to another. The Bastille has fallen. For a moment, the street grows completely still. The fortress that stood for centuries now belongs to the people of Paris. The baker listens carefully. He hears pieces of the story as the returning men describe what they saw. The crowd grew larger through the afternoon. Voices rose, tension filled the air, and eventually the gates of the fortress were taken. The soldiers inside could no longer hold back the thousands gathered outside the walls. The baker imagines the scene: the tall towers of the Bastille, the great stone walls, and the sea of people surrounding it. For generations, the fortress had seemed untouchable, a symbol of royal power, a place that ordinary citizens could only look at from a distance. Yet, on this single summer day, the people of Paris changed that. The baker leans quietly against the doorway of his shop. The evening light is growing softer now. The sky above the city begins to turn shades of pale orange and deep blue. Somewhere in the distance, church bells begin to ring, one after another. Their sound travels slowly through the streets. People pause to listen. Some smile, others simply stand in silence. The city feels different, not loud, not chaotic, but changed. The baker watches as neighbors begin to return to their homes. Doors close. Windows glow with candlelight. Children are called inside for the evening meal. The ordinary rhythm of life slowly begins to return. Yet, beneath that familiar rhythm, something new now exists in Paris. A feeling that the world has shifted, that the old order is no longer as solid as it once seemed. The baker steps back into his bakery. Inside the room is quiet. The stone oven is cooling after the long day of baking. The wooden table stands empty now. Tomorrow morning, he will begin again. Flour, water, dough, bread. But tonight, Paris carries the memory of a day that will be remembered for centuries. And as darkness slowly settles over the rooftops of the city, the baker prepares to close his shop, unaware that historians of the future will one day speak about this day as the beginning of a revolution. For now, however, the city simply grows quiet beneath the fading light of evening, and the long summer night begins. Night slowly settles over Paris. The warmth of the long summer day fades from the stones of the streets. Cool air begins to drift between the narrow houses. One by one, candles appear in the windows of the city. Small points of light glowing softly in the darkness. In the baker's neighborhood, the excitement of the day has begun to quiet. Most people have returned to their homes. Doors are closed. Voices grow softer. The baker finishes the last of his evening tasks. Inside the shop, he wipes flour from the wooden table, carefully stacks the empty breadboards along the wall. The stone oven is now dark and slowly cooling. It has worked hard today, just as the baker has. For a moment, he sits quietly on a small wooden stool. The bakery is silent except for the faint sound of the evening breeze moving past the door. It has been a long and unusual day. When the baker woke before dawn, Paris was calm. The streets were quiet. The Bastille was only a distant shadow on the horizon of the city. But now everything feels different, not louder, not chaotic, just different. The baker stands and walks slowly to the doorway. Outside, the street is peaceful. The sky above Paris is deep blue, slowly darkening toward night. A few stars have begun to appear. Somewhere far away, laughter echoes faintly through the city. Groups of people are still celebrating. Others continue talking about what happened earlier in the day, the fall of the Bastille. The baker leans against the door frame and watches the quiet street. For centuries, the fortress stood as a symbol of royal power. Thick stone walls, heavy gates, dark towers watching over the city. Few ordinary citizens ever imagined that such a place could fall. Yet today it did. Not by armies, not by kings, but by the people of Paris. The baker does not fully understand what this will mean for the future. He is not a philosopher or a politician. He is simply a man who wakes before sunrise and bakes bread. But even he can sense that the city has changed. Something invisible has shifted in the hearts of the people. A feeling that the world may not always remain the way it has been. The baker looks down the street once more. The city is growing quieter with every passing moment. A lantern flickers beside a doorway. A cat moves silently along the edge of the road. From a distant tower, a bell slowly marks the passing hour. Paris is preparing for sleep. The baker returns inside the bakery. He closes the wooden shutters, blows out the last candle. Darkness fills the small room. Tomorrow morning he will rise early again. The ovens will be lit. The dough will be kneaded, and people will once again line up outside the bakery for bread. Life in Paris will continue. Yet somewhere beyond the quiet streets, the Bastille now stands empty. Its gates broken, its towers no longer a symbol of fear. And though the baker may never visit the fortress himself, he will always remember this day. The day when the people of Paris walked through the streets toward the great stone walls and changed the story of their city forever. Outside, the night grows deeper, the city sleeps, and history quietly turns another page. The night deepens over Paris. The warm colors of sunset have faded completely now. Above the rooftops, the sky has turned dark and wide, scattered with quiet stars. A gentle breeze moves through the narrow streets of the city. It carries with it the smells of evening fires, distant kitchens, and the faint scent of bread that still lingers in the baker's shop. Most of the city has grown quiet. After the long and emotional day, people have returned to their homes. Candles burn softly behind wooden shutters. Families sit together in dim rooms, speaking in calm voices about what they heard, what they saw, and what it might mean. The baker sits on a small chair near the doorway of his bakery. He has not yet gone to sleep. The air outside feels cool and peaceful after the heat of the afternoon. From where he sits, he can see only a small stretch of the street. But tonight, even that familiar view seems slightly different. A day like this does not happen often. The baker has lived many years in Paris. He has seen festivals, markets, royal parades passing through the streets. But he has never seen the people of the city move together in the way they did today. The baker closes his eyes for a moment. He can still imagine the distant fortress, the Bastille. Though he never stood before its gates today, the story of what happened there has already begun spreading across the city. Some people say the fortress looked smaller once the gates were open. Others say the great towers seemed less frightening when the crowds surrounded them. Stories will continue to grow in the days ahead. But tonight, the city is simply tired. The baker stands slowly and stretches his arms. Tomorrow will arrive soon enough, and when it does, the ovens will need to be lit once again. He walks a few steps into the street. The stones beneath his feet are cool, and the quiet of the night settles gently over the neighborhood. Somewhere far away, a group of people is still celebrating. Their voices drift faintly through the darkness. But here the world feels peaceful. A lantern sways slightly beside a nearby doorway. Its small flame flickers in the breeze. A cat moves silently across the road and disappears between two buildings. The baker takes a deep breath. Paris feels different tonight, not because the streets are louder, but because something has changed beneath the surface of everyday life. For generations, the Bastille stood as a symbol of power, a place that reminded people of the strength of the king and the authority of the crown. But now that symbol has fallen. The baker does not know what will come next. No one truly does. History rarely reveals its full meaning in a single moment. Often it moves slowly, unfolding over many years. Yet the baker senses that people will speak about this day for a very long time, perhaps even centuries. He looks once more down the quiet street, then returns inside the bakery. The wooden door closes softly behind him. Inside the room is dark and peaceful. The oven has cooled completely now. The tools of the day rest quietly along the walls. Soon, the baker will sleep, and while he sleeps, the city of Paris will rest beneath the calm night sky, unaware that the events of this day will echo far beyond the narrow streets and rooftops of the city. For now, however, Paris simply breathes in the silence of the night, and the slow rhythm of ordinary life prepares to begin again with the coming of a new morning. Deep into the night, Paris grows quieter than it has been all day. The excitement of the afternoon has faded. The conversations have grown softer, and one by one the candles inside the houses of the city begin to disappear behind closed shutters. The baker lies awake for a short while in his small room above the shop. The wooden beams of the ceiling are dark in the faint moonlight that enters through the window. It has been a long day, a day unlike most others in his life. When he woke before dawn, his thoughts were simple: prepare the oven, mix the dough, bake the bread, serve the morning customers. But the city had other plans. Even now, as the quiet hours of the night pass slowly, the baker can still hear distant sounds drifting through the streets. Voices speaking quietly somewhere far away. The slow roll of a cart moving over the stones. A door closing in the distance. These small sounds are part of the life of Paris. Yet tonight, they seem to carry a different feeling, as if the city itself is thinking, reflecting on what has happened. The baker turns slightly and looks toward the window. Beyond the rooftops, the sky is clear. Stars shine softly above the sleeping city. Somewhere in that darkness stands the Bastille, or rather what remains of it now, the great fortress that once seemed untouchable. The baker imagines its towers standing silent beneath the night sky. Earlier today, thousands of people gathered there, voices rising, crowds pressing against the ancient walls, and now the fortress is no longer the same. The baker wonders what the city will look like tomorrow. Will people wake with the same excitement? Will the streets fill again with voices and crowds? Or will life slowly return to its ordinary rhythm? For most people in Paris, tomorrow will still bring the same responsibilities. Workers will return to their trades. Merchants will open their shops, and bakers will once again light their ovens before sunrise. The baker smiles slightly at the thought. Bread will still be needed, no matter how much the world changes. He closes his eyes again. The cool night air moves gently through the window. The quiet sounds of the city continue to drift through the streets. Paris is sleeping now, resting after a day that will one day be written in books and remembered in stories. But for the baker, this day will remain something simpler, a memory of crowded streets, of whispered rumors, of people walking together toward the great stone fortress on the horizon. And now, in the peaceful hours of the night, those memories slowly fade into the calm rhythm of sleep. The baker's breathing becomes slow and steady. Outside the city rests beneath the quiet sky. The streets are empty, the houses dark, and the great city of Paris sleeps peacefully after one of the most important days in its long history. As the night continues, Paris rests beneath the calm summer sky. The city that only hours ago was filled with voices, movement, and uncertainty now breathes slowly in sleep. The narrow streets lie empty. Lanterns burn low beside quiet doorways. A gentle wind moves softly through the alleys, carrying the cool air of night across the rooftops. Inside the baker's small home above the shop, everything is still. The baker sleeps deeply now. The long day has finally come to an end. His hands, which worked the dough since early morning, now rest quietly beside him. For him, tomorrow will begin as it always has. Before sunrise, he will rise from his bed. He will step down into the bakery. The oven will be lit once again. Heavy flour will cover the wooden table, and the slow rhythm of bread making will return. Yet tomorrow the city around him may feel different, because the people of Paris will wake, knowing that something remarkable has happened. The Bastille, once a powerful fortress, is no longer the same. The symbol that once stood above the city has been changed forever. But tonight, the city does not think about the future. Tonight, Paris simply sleeps. The baker turns slightly in his bed as the cool night air drifts through the window. Somewhere in the distance, a church bell quietly marks another passing hour. The sound spreads gently across the rooftops and fades into the night. Moments like this pass quietly through history, often unnoticed, yet they exist between the great events that fill books and stories. The calm after a day of change, the quiet night before a new chapter begins. Far across the city, near the eastern side where the Bastille once stood as an untouchable fortress, the streets are also growing calm. Earlier, they were filled with crowds, thousands of voices echoing between the tall stone walls. But now even that place rests beneath the stillness of night. A few guards remain, a few curious citizens linger nearby, but most people have returned to their homes. Even great moments in history eventually give way to silence. The baker sleeps peacefully, unaware that historians in distant centuries will look back on this day and mark it as the beginning of something much larger than the lives of the ordinary people who lived through it. For him, this was simply a long day in Paris, a day of rumors, of crowds passing through the streets, of whispered stories about a fortress in the distance. And now, as the night deepens, those stories drift slowly into dreams. Outside, the stars shine quietly above the rooftops of the city. Paris rests beneath them, and the slow turning of history continues. Late into the night, Paris lies quiet beneath the summer sky. The long day has finally come to rest. The crowds that once filled the streets have disappeared behind closed doors. Lanterns burn softly in a few windows. Most of the city now sleeps. The baker rests peacefully in the small room above his shop. The events of the day slowly drift through his dreams, not as loud moments of history, but as simple memories. The sound of footsteps passing through the morning streets. Voices whispering rumors about the Bastille. The steady warmth of the oven as bread baked slowly through the early hours. Outside the window, the rooftops of Paris stretch into the darkness. Tall chimneys rise above the houses. Narrow streets wind between the buildings like quiet rivers of stone. From time to time, a soft breeze moves through the city. It touches the wooden shutters. It moves gently through the empty alleys. Then, the air becomes still again. Earlier that day, thousands of people walked through those same streets. Workers, merchants, students, ordinary citizens of Paris. Together they moved toward the great fortress that had stood above the city for generations. For many people, the Bastille represented fear. A place of thick walls and locked gates. A place where the power of the king seemed strong and unbreakable. Yet even the strongest symbols can change. The baker does not think about politics or power. He thinks about bread, about the quiet rhythm of each morning, about the people who stand patiently outside his shop waiting for their daily loaf. Tomorrow they will return again. Life in Paris will continue. But something small inside the city has shifted. A quiet understanding that the world does not always remain the same. The baker turns slightly in his sleep. Outside, the moon climbs higher above the rooftops. Its pale light touches the stones of the silent streets. A church bell sounds softly somewhere in the distance. One slow note marking the passing hour. Then the sound fades away into the night. Paris breathes quietly beneath the stars. The great city rests after a day that will one day be remembered across the world. But tonight there are no historians, no books, only the calm silence of a sleeping city, and the steady rhythm of ordinary lives continuing quietly beneath the vast sky of history. As the final hours of the night pass quietly over Paris, the city rests in complete calm. The excitement of the day has faded into memory. The crowds are gone. The voices have disappeared. Only the quiet breathing of the sleeping city remains. Above the rooftops, the stars shine softly in the deep summer sky. The moon hangs peacefully over the narrow streets, casting pale light across the stones below. From far away comes the faint sound of the river moving slowly through the darkness. Everything feels still. Everything feels calm. Inside the small room above his bakery, the baker sleeps deeply. The long day has finally given way to rest. His dreams are simple. Fragments of the morning. The smell of fresh bread. The quiet warmth of the oven, and the distant stories of a fortress that stood beyond the rooftops of Paris. Tomorrow will arrive soon enough. Before the sun rises above the city, the baker will wake again. He will step quietly down into the bakery. The oven will be lit. Flour will cover the wooden table. Dough will be kneaded slowly by steady hands. And once again, people will gather outside his door. Some will speak excitedly about what happened the day before. Others will simply wait for their bread, as they always have. Life will continue. Because even during the greatest moments in history, ordinary life never truly stops. Bread must still be baked. Markets must still open. Families must still gather around their evening meals. The fall of the Bastille will one day be remembered as the beginning of great change. But on this quiet summer night, Paris is simply a sleeping city beneath the stars. The baker turns gently in his bed. Outside, the cool night air moves softly between the houses. A lantern flickers beside a doorway. A cat walks silently across the empty street. And somewhere in the distance, a church bell slowly marks another passing hour. The sound drifts across the rooftops before fading once again into silence. Moments like this are rarely written in history books. The quiet hours after great events, the calm spaces between the turning pages of time. Yet these peaceful moments are where life continues, where ordinary people rest, dream, and prepare for another day. Above the city, the stars remain steady and quiet. The rooftops of Paris stretch endlessly beneath them, and somewhere beyond those rooftops, the Bastille now stands changed forever. But tonight, the city does not think about tomorrow. Tonight, Paris sleeps. The baker sleeps. And the slow river of history continues to flow quietly through the darkness of the night.